Okay, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to talk about harmonies and how you can use them when you improvise. And I was blown away when I first realized how to do this and how simple it was. I thought that, you know, when I'd hear somebody harmonizing a lead, I thought that there's no way. You had to plan that out and really kind of work that out. But you can do this on the fly once you can understand a few very simple things. And that's what we're going to talk about in this lesson. I'm going to give you some of these boilerplate templates that I use when I'm improvising, and they're all connected to chord shapes that you already know. So just basic chord shapes. Once you can see them, you'll be able to use them, and you can use them in any style. Now I'm playing them over sort of a slow country style lead, but you could use them over a fast rock song or blues or whatever. So once you understand the principles, you can use them. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to go through the first half, which is where we talk about harmonized sixths. If you'd like to watch the second video, which is where we talk about the second half of the song and cover harmonized thirds, as well as download the tablature and the MP3 jam track, you can get all of those extras by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP504. All right, so what is a harmonized sixth? I mentioned that. I'm going to be very brief on this, then we'll get into all the specific notes. All it is, in a nutshell, it's two notes that you play at the same time, and those two notes are 6 intervals apart. That's why it's called a harmonized sixth. And those 6 intervals are coming from the major scale. That's it. So you can take any note. If we're going to take the C major scale, you can take any 2 notes from the C major scale. We'll start with this note, and I'm going to go up 6 steps in that C major scale from this note. So that's my first note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I play this note with this note at the same time, that's a harmonized sixth. And that's true of any of the notes in the major scale. You just take one of your notes, any of them, and then you go up 6 notes on above that within the major scale, and you'll be playing, you play the 2 notes at the same time, you're playing a harmonized sixth. That's where that comes from. And one easy way to identify them visually when you're playing guitar is typically when you're playing those 2 notes, there's one string in between. So they're played on 2 separate strings. So when I'm playing this, for example, I'm on string 2 and 4, and then there's a string in between, which would be that 3rd string. Or if I was playing this, I'd be playing on strings 1 and 3, and then there's that string in between. That's just sort of a general way to sort of identify what that harmony is when you see a harmony on 2 strings, but you've got a string in between them. A harmonized third, on the other hand, there is no string in between them. We'll get into that in the next video. So anyway, that's what a harmonized sixth is. Let's listen to the first part of this song, and then we'll talk about it. So the song is in the key of C, and the rhythm guitar is going like this. Real simple, real slow, just strumming a C chord, cowboy chord, C chord. And that first harmony lick that I played goes like this. So what I'm picturing when I play that first line is I'm picturing 2 things. I'm picturing my C chord, like this, a cowboy chord, and then I'm picturing my C chord up here, using the A shape. That's it. I'm picturing those 2 chords. It's actually 1 chord, but 2 shapes of that chord. The C shape and the A shape for the C chord. And when I play this chord, the C chord that you already know how to play, if I play strings 2 and 4 at the same time. Now this is one of the little thing that I'm using here that I didn't mention is I'm using hybrid picking. And most of you probably picked up on that, but I'm picking on the lower string with my pick, and whatever the upper string is, I pluck it with one of my fingers. Usually I'm using my ring finger for that. Play them at the same time. Now, if you're a fingerstyle player, that's not an issue. You can do that easily. For those of us with a pick, that may be a little more of a challenge if you've never done it, but you can do that. If not, the workaround would be to go like this. You'd have to play it like that, you know, because you obviously can't play them at the same time. But you can do this. Try hybrid picking it. So if I'm playing my C chord, the cowboy C chord, and I played a harmonized sixth on strings 2 and 4 out of that chord, I'm just playing those 2 notes from the chord, right? And then when I walk up to this, I'm playing strings 2 and 4, the same 2 strings, out of my C chord up here, using the A shape. Hopefully a light bulb just went off for a lot of you, and you realize, oh, this to this is just this chord shape and this chord shape, and you're just connecting the 2 shapes of that C chord. Now these are the extra steps in there. And so there's a little bit of a chromatic playing there, which is where we play all of the notes sort of in between. But that's what's going on, is I'm working from here to here. So after I played that first harmony, then I came to strings 2 and 4 on the 3rd fret, 4th fret, and then up to the 5th fret. And then my index finger comes up here and hits the 3rd fret 1st string. And that note is also in my C chord if I use the A shape. That's the note. All right, so that's the first line. Now that next line goes. Now let me talk about this. This is actually not a harmonized 6, but it's a really cool harmony. And it's one you've got to know. And it's in the same neighborhood we're already in. We're playing out of this C chord using the A shape. So remember, we had our index finger on that 3rd fret 1st string. We'll just keep that there. And then on this 3rd string, I'm going to slide up to the 5th fret with my ring finger. Now I'm hybrid picking that, so I'm picking on the 3rd string with my pick and then use my ring finger on the 1st string. You could use your pick to pick those notes apart like that. It doesn't matter. But anyway, that's what's going on. And then my pinky goes down to the 5th fret 1st string, and then back to that 3rd fret 1st string, and then back down to that 5th fret 3rd string. So that's the line. Now what's going on there when we play those notes at the same time? They don't sound as pretty, right? You can tell it's a harmony of some kind, but it doesn't have the real prettiness and richness that you hear from a harmonized 6. These two notes are a harmonized 5th. So when we look at these two notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're 5 intervals apart. And that harmonized 5th just doesn't sound as pretty to me. It doesn't sound as rich. It's still a harmony you need to know, though. That's why I included it here. And it's in that same A shape that we're already in for our C chord. So that's what it sounds like. Just get that sound in your ear. That's really going to be the key to all of this. Hearing a harmonized 6 and hearing a harmonized 5th and hearing the difference between them. The more of this you do, the more comfortable you get. But one of the things you may not have realized yet is that you've already got a lot of the tools you need to be able to harmonize off of the C shape and the A shape. So you've got you can start to sing with your fingers, and that when I realized that, how simple that is, it blew me away. It's just this chord shape and this chord shape, and I'm just kind of going between them using those principles I just showed you. Okay, so let's listen to the next part. Okay, so the song is still on the C chord, and then I came up here and went, and then back down here. Now everything down here is what we already got. So all I did was I came up to this 3, 1, 3, 1. Those are the string numbers. And so I've got my middle finger on that 9th fret 3rd string, and then I've got my index finger on the 8th fret 1st string. But where are these notes coming from? It's back to our chord shapes. So I'm picturing, remember we're still over the C chord, right? So I'm picturing my C chord up here using the E shape. Okay, so it's just strings 1 and 3 out of that chord shape. So that means I can jump around all over the fretboard now using this little bit of logic and start to really harmonize. And in order to do that, all I have to do is visualize this shape, and this shape. So after that, I came back down to that harmonized 5th, and then I went a quick slide to the 3rd fret, back to that starting point, and then back up to here. And that concludes everything that we played over the C portion of the jam track. All right, so now the jam track goes to the F chord. We go to our 4 chord. And I came up here and went. Now everything I just played there is what you already know. It's taking the same principles of what we've already talked about. I did this on purpose. I wanted to just keep reusing these licks so that they start to really cement in your mind. So when I went like this, that's the C chord, but then I went into that. Now that doesn't sound as pretty, so that's your little clue as to what's going on here. Okay, so that's a harmonized fifth, in other words. But why is that working over the F chord? Well, think about the F chord using the shapes that we've been talking about. You've got your F chord using the A shape, right? Here's your F chord using the C shape. Remember what we did to start with? We connected the C shape to the A shape. So when I went like this, I went into that harmonized fifth out of the A shape. It's my F chord, but the A shape. And I walked it down to the C shape. F chord using the C shape. Hopefully you're seeing that, right? Okay, then the song goes back to the C chord. And to get back to it, I went... That's a Chet Atkins move where you kind of... This is where we're trying to get to. But I started a half step down. And then I came into it. At least I attribute that to Chet. I hear him do that sometimes. But picture, don't just like memorize this stuff. Everything we're doing here, remember, we're playing over C, right? The song is back over C. And know where these notes are coming from. When I go into these notes, oh yeah, they're coming from my C chord here using the A shape. And then I just walked it back down to my C shape down here. Okay, so then the song goes to the G chord, which is our 5 chord. Actually, it went to a G7, to a dominant 7 there. And here's what I played. And then that gets us back to the C. Now that's like the old yodel, the Jimmy Rogers yodel. That's kind of what I was going for. This kind of has a Jimmy Rogers vibe to me. Something that, I don't know, just sort of his style of playing. So, what I'm doing, remember, we're playing over the 5 chord or G chord. So, I'm starting here on the 2nd fret, 3rd string, walk it up to the 3rd fret, and then up to the 4th fret. I slid up to that, and then I came up to that 3rd fret, 1st string. Now look at these two notes. It's a harmonized 6, and that's working over the G chord, but why? Pause the video if you need to, and just work this out on your own. Try and figure it out. This is something we've already used. I'll assume you've paused and tried this out. So we're playing over the G chord, right? And I'm picturing my G chord here using the E shape. Oh yeah, strings 3 and 1 out of that shape. Remember we just did it for the C shape? We're doing that now here. So I walked it up and then walked that down 2 frets. Now you can do this when you're playing over a 7 chord, a dominant 7 chord. If that's the sound, even if the chord isn't doing that, if that's the sound you want to create when you're playing your lead, and you're doing a harmony, just take if you're taking this, if you're playing out of this shape here, let's get our bearings, right? Strings 1 and 3 out of the E shape, you can go down 2 frets, and that would represent a G7 because of that flat 7, right? That's in your G7. And then watch this. It's kind of a call and response. There's a response. We're on strings 2 and 4 on the 5th fret. We walk that down to here. So it's 5, 4, 3. Man, we've done that before, right? Oh yeah, that works over the C chord, but it also works over this G chord. And you can picture these living inside of your E shape, right? It's my G chord. But I've got this little walk down, and that walks down to this note, which is my flat 7. So it works over that G7. So when I go from here down to here, I'm going into that G7 sound. Hopefully you can hear that. So here's your takeaway on this shape. Everything let me button this up and summarize it. If we're playing a G chord, Actually, forget the word G. If you're playing this chord shape, you've got... Right? So let's do it over an A. Right? Now it needs to resolve. That's my 5 chord going back to the 1 chord. So from the G back to the C, it's... And I slid back in. I started on that 1st fret, 4th string, slid up to the 2nd fret. What are those 2 notes? They're the starting point that we used in this. It's from our C chord. And then I threw in a little, that's like a sus4 chord. So I kept that, and then I put my ring finger down on that 3rd fret, 4th string. That's a way to kind of do like a C sus4 chord. It'd be like going like this. Which is a nice way to kind of resolve, sort of cap the ending of it there. All right, so that's the first half where we talk about all the harmonized 6th. Well, there was the 1 harmonized 5th that I threw in there. But here's what you want to do with this before you move on to part 2, is just take the jam track and practice playing this. And then once you get comfortable playing it, it's not that technical, start to use these ideas to improvise. Over the C chord, you've got, right? But you could start up here. And you could take that thing that we did over the G chord and do it for the C chord. Right? You could start interchanging some of these ideas. What we did for the F chord, where we played the harmonized 5th, you could do that for the G chord. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I hope you can follow me with that and start really improvising and using these tools. Once you get them under your hat, it becomes easy and becomes second nature. All right, we'll see you in part 2 where we'll go over the harmonized thirds.